couple weeks ago, the head developer for the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise stated that him and his team are not focusing on ports, remasters, or remakes of Sonic games. Rather, they are focusing on the future of the franchise and looking at those AAA titles coming down the line, which is very exciting to see the franchise move forward and not just do a bunch of remasters and remakes. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, what this potential AAA title could be. Hello everyone, I'm OCDsaster, and this is OCDsaster Blue, my Sonic exclusive channel where everything we do here is Sonic related. So if that sounds like something your speed, consider subscribing. So what will the next AAA installment of the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise be? Well, we can already put together a few pieces because the same lead developers for the Sonic franchise, when mentioning they're focusing on the future of Sonic games, really emphasized that free zone experience. For those of you unaware, the free zone experience is basically what they're calling the open world portions of both Sonic Frontiers and the hub world or white space area of Shadow Generations, in which you can run around, go on rails, fight enemies, but then also go to these different spots on the map to go into a level that's more akin to the boost formula from previous Sonic games and levels. So I guess the first question is, are we getting a Sonic Frontiers 2? And quite honestly, I don't think we are. When it comes to Sonic titles, we haven't really gotten sequels to games. Sure, there's the iconic Sonic Adventure 2, but after that, we haven't really gotten anything of that nature. From a marketing standpoint, titling something Sonic Frontiers 2 could pique the interest of some people, but over time the game has kind of lost its luster, with Shadow Generations being far more polished than its predecessor. Not to take away the success that Sonic Frontiers did, it sold a lot of copies, it kind of revitalized the franchise for many people, myself included. A lot of the doubters were actually proven wrong. Like I said, it's not the greatest game once you play Shadow Generations, because that's just how much better they've improved upon the formula, but it's still a great addition to the franchise. Although I don't think it's going to be a Sonic Frontiers 2 type of title, I do think they're going to continue the story from Sonic Frontiers. Let me explain. In Sonic Frontiers, Sonic talks to his friends that are trapped in cyberspace, and they all kind of go through their own personal arcs throughout the game and talk about how they want to do different things. For example, Amy probably has the most impactful arc where she actually wants to go and travel and do her own thing and find herself and kind of go on a journey where she can see where she can help other people. And Tails also has a really good arc in which he says he needs to prove to himself that he doesn't need Sonic to be strong and that he can do things on his own, which he has proven in a few other games, especially his own story in Sonic Adventure 1 way back in the day. But over time, his character's kind of just become that sidekick that follows Sonic around like a wanderlust puppy that doesn't really have that personality. So they really fleshed out these characters, and I think they're going to move further in that direction. Now, this isn't me saying that in the next mainline Sonic game that we're going to have different playable characters such as Tails, Knuckles, Amy. Although I would love that, I think they really want to focus on Sonic still, so that way they can really iron out the boost mechanic and the level design. Because when you have these other characters that are playable, you then have to build different level designs, different gameplay, different mechanics, and it takes away from really getting that 100%. Because I think they're almost at that perfect formula, that perfect spot for the boost formula as they showed off in Shadow Generations. We'll get back to that in a second. I want to kind of compare what I think this new game could be versus Frontiers a little bit more, because with Frontiers, although you have the open world mechanic, you have a lot of pop-in. That's the first thing that comes to my mind is pop-in, and then a lot of the design and theming around these zones, these islands as they call them, they're all very generic. They're grass, they're sand, they're more grass. Like, they didn't even have a snow level, right? Everything kind of distinctly stayed in that darker tone and was very grounded for what they were going for the story. But this next mainline title, I want them to go crazy with these open zones. I want them to look vibrant, extravagant, tonally and thematically different from each of the other zones. I like to go back to Sonic Heroes, for example. because every single stage is vastly different, or at least you know how they have the batch of stages. They're all different and thematically just so contrast to the others. You have, you know, Seaside Hill, then you go over to Bingo Highway. From there, you go into like a luscious green jungle. We need these very overly saturated, color popping changes in these zones to really make them feel like their own thing, but also feel very Sonic. Have loops. We need loops. We can still have grinding and rails and stuff, but like make it look similar to that of the world. If you're in a jungle, have the rails actually look like vines and not just look like these out of place rails that are just there for no reason, popping in as you go along. Also, we need to stop with the collectathon, because to, you know, call it what it is, one of the more annoying things about Sonic Frontiers was that it was a collectathon. Collect all these things, go to this character, talk to them, go collect more things, go talk to this character. Oh, you ran into a cyberspace portal, go in, do a level, beat a few challenges, get a key, go to the Chaos Emerald, and then rinse and repeat. And that was the gameplay loop, which was fine for what they were trying to do to build out this game, but I think they can do a lot more in the future. Could you imagine a Sonic Frontiers like open zone, but everything is designed like a casino from Bingo World, and you're running around and you can just jump on the pinball machines, and then Sonic will turn into a pinball and get bounced around like crazy, and then you can hop off and run over and do something completely different, something interactive. You can, you know, collect rings and then use those rings to do other things. It would just be a... How does it really make sense? Sonic Frontiers tried something very bold, and that was having a battling system, essentially, where you could get abilities, you could actually fight as Sonic, and I think this is the start of a good mechanic for that open world space. However, there was a lot to be desired. There were only a few things, and he kind of seemed like the Sonic in Super Smash Bros., where his move was just going into a ball. He does that a lot in this game as well. Do I think that they're going to continue with Sonic doing these kind of like battles in between the hub world? I don't know, because when you look at Shadow Generations, they got rid of that entirely, and you're just using your homing attack and chaos control like homing attack. With Sonic Frontiers, they swung for the fences, doing two pretty crazy things. One, they added a battle system where Sonic isn't just doing a homing attack. That's still an option, but he has other abilities that you can unlock and go down a skill tree with, and have different fighting styles against enemies. I personally think that they could have done a little bit more with this. It's not a lot to choose from. There's not a lot of combos you can do, but it does its point, and they tried something, and some people really did seem to like it. Do I think that they're going to continue this in the future Sonic installment? I'm not quite sure, because a lot of it did seem very much like Smash Bros, where Sonic just goes into a ball and does like some sort of ball type move, and it just doesn't seem very visually stunning after the first few times doing it. So if they do add this back in, I don't think it would be part of the open zone. They might do a portal or whatever they're choosing to go into a level section, and maybe there's some that are just battle zones, and you have this gameplay only in there, and then you go back to the hub world, run around, and then go to another level that's more boost level oriented, right? Because in Shadow Generations, when you're running around the white space, Shadow doesn't have all these different battle moves. There's not even a lot of enemies. It's a little bit more open. It's more collecting out there still, but he does have his signature homing attack. Well, in this case, it's chaos control. So they might be leaning more back into that basic, simple set for Sonic, but we will not know until they kind of announce the game. This was kind of like, the fighting style was a part of Frontiers' identity, so they might be moving away from that entirely. Next, another thing that they did that swung for the fences that I think they really did well, but could have also shot themselves in the foot, is having Sonic go Super Sonic at the end of each island and fighting bosses as Super Sonic. This was hype. This was intense. This was great. not all the boss fights were, really fun. Some of them were actually kind of difficult, which made it, actually kind of fun in that sense. So I'm kind of contradicting myself. Some of them were fun and difficult. Some of them were not difficult and also not fun, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But they shot themselves in the foot because now we have a taste. Now we know what it would be like to go Supersonic at the end of each zone to fight a boss. And also on top of that, it diminishes the final boss. The final boss in Sonic Frontiers is not that great, not that fun. We kind of did it all already with fighting, Giganto, and then it's like QT events and like an arcade shooter for End of the World. I don't know what they were thinking. They just ran out of time, I think. But it does diminish the final fight, the final battle as Supersonic. So that's where they're kind of working at an uphill battle, because now fans are expecting to go Supersonic in every game and have awesome boss fights. And then two, they're expecting them to raise the bar with these boss fights. So I think that could be a detriment. But I really do think that they should keep this going. I really like this idea, and I think that if they can find a story or a narrative that allows Sonic to get the 7 Chaos Emeralds at the end of each zone he's in, it would be great. Moving forward on that note, I want to mention that this popped in my head. I think it would be great to actually have Eggman take over. And this is kind of leading into that series that I did where I was talking about if I could remake or just redo the entirety of Sonic Forces, how I would do it. This kind of falls into that category, because could you imagine if you have all these fun, colorful zones and they're all taken over by these giant Death Egg robots, mecha robots, and then it's like everything is just, this robotic dystopia, but you can still see different parts of the theming. So it could be like a snowy zone, but there's just a lot of metallic and robotic stuff everywhere, and you have to actually clear out the zone, and then it'll go back to its like beauty and its wonder. Still have the day and night cycles. That was a nice touch. I think that would be amazing, where Eggman is actually, and this is where I go to the Sonic Forces, Eggman actually takes over again. He somehow wins, and he takes over these zones, and he's taking over the world, and you have to save each zone. You really have to go in, talk to the NPCs, talk to the locals in a Sonic Boom kind of way almost, and it really feels fleshed out and like you're in a giant universe and you're actually being the hero and actually impacting and saving the day. And then the boss fight for each zone would be a really cool giant Titan-esque Eggman robot that he's built. Maybe he teams up with Sage. Maybe that's also part of a sequel portion, because Sage is such a popular character now, as she debuted in Frontiers, that like Sage is helping him make these way more advanced robots, and there's a motivation behind all of that. I think that would be awesome. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments on that idea. That's my pitch. Just running around these very colorful, vibrant zones that look dark and robotic at first, but as you fight enemies, as you beat stages, get Chaos Emeralds, it clears up and becomes these beautiful zones that you can then do more fun stuff and explore once you've cleared the area. So for example, if it's like a bingo world zone, like everything is like shut down, everyone's hiding, but as you clear it out, you can now go to the slots and play the slots. You can, do ping pong, and not ping pong, pinball, and stuff like that. Things will open up, you can talk to locals, and they'll give you challenges and missions to do that aren't like combat related, but because you cleared out the area, they're now safe and can give you different stuff to do. I think that would add a lot of replayability and would also be a lot of fun. Moving on from this though, because I'm only talking about the open zone stuff right now, let's talk about the levels. I mentioned before maybe you could have a few battle zones or something like that. Maybe that's a thing, maybe it's not. But the levels, I think they're just going to keep moving forward with what they did with Shadow Generations. Shadow Generations is so good with the boost formula. It's not perfect, but it's almost there, guys. I'm pretty sure like we're 90% closer, or like we're at 90% completion to having the perfect Sonic boost type level, because they really understand people when they're in a 3D space, they want to keep playing on the 3D level, and then if they do 2D, they can even tilt the camera a little bit and still make it look, dynamic, so that it's not just like a boring, side-scrolling situation. Shadow controls the best that I've ever played in a Sonic game, and everything seems smooth, fast, but not too fast, and you really need to actually understand how to do different pathing in order to get everything you need. And I really hope that they just keep building on this and really make levels unique and different for the theming of that stage. So maybe each zone that's like themed, so say it's the jungle theme, you have an open zone that's like a jungle, and then you have 3 or 4 levels that are boost formula levels, maybe 2 that are 3D, 2 that are 2D, but the camera's a little bit tilted so it still looks like you're, you know, it's like the Act 2s of Shattered Generations, but those levels are themed based off of a jungle because you're in the jungle zone, but they're different enough where there's different things, the colors are a little bit different, maybe it's like sunset in one of them, maybe there's crocodiles in one, another one you have vines that you have to jump on and swing to. You could switch it up but still make it feel organic to that area. I think this would be a great move for them to do, and it won't be so jarring when you're in a zone and then go in to a portal and then now you're in a cityscape, right? That was more of a lazy way. I know they didn't have enough time, but for Sonic Frontiers, seeing the only 3 different types of level designs, like, it wasn't great, right? You had the Green Hill type, oh boy, Green Hill. The Cyberspace type, which just kind of looked okay, and then like the city. So I really think that they can really focus on that as well. And now that they have more assets, and you can take the assets from the open zone and throw them into these levels. I'm getting excited just saying it. Sonic would be able to boost, jump, grind, homing attack. His controls would be more similar to that of Shadow because that just felt more fluid and there wasn't a lot of like acceleration when you jumped, and it wasn't as sluggish as it was in Frontiers, and they would figure out how to use the boost in the best way that they can. I would love this. And there would be different Eggman type robots for each zone as well, differing in difficulty and look based off of that area. I think all this could just be amazing, and maybe even, guys, I know I'm going crazy, but maybe it's like you go through these stages and you have to obviously complete the stages to get to a Chaos Emerald, but maybe to get to a key or whatever, using Frontiers as a reference to get to that Chaos Emerald, at the end of each stage there's like a mini boss that you have to fight. Your time will end, it'll rank you, but then you move right into a fight and then you earn that key and then you go back out to the zone. I don't know, I'm just spitballing. There's a lot of things that they can do, but I'm just trying to give an example. This is such a ripe new area for the Sonic franchise. I think Frontiers is the start of a new era. We're finally in the dawn of a new Sonic wave, and I'm just very excited to hear that they're focusing on AAA titles and sequel installments. We just got Cross Worlds, which has been doing very well, but that's a spin-off game, and now we can move on to what the next game is going to be. So, you guys let me know down in the comments, what do you think of my ideas for this next Sonic AAA title? Do you like it? Do you hate it? What are your ideas? Do you like Sonic Frontiers more than Shattered Generations, or do you think Shattered Generations is the right direction that we're going into? I'd love to hear all your thoughts and opinions down below. And with that being said, I'm OCDsaster, and I hope you have a super Sonic rest of your day. See ya!